Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Alertus webinar series. My name is Vincent Busher, Marketing Coordinator at Alertus Technologies. During this presentation, Robbie Deerdorf will provide insight on panic button solutions to reduce emergency response times. In addition, we would also like to introduce guest speakers Matthew Mosey, Emergency Response Technology Manager at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, as well as Kyle Van de Kamp, Systems and Network Administrator at Trinity Episcopal School. Thank you for joining today's webinar. Moving forward, please feel free to submit your questions during the webinar at any time, and they will be addressed during the Q&A session at the end of this presentation. This webinar is being recorded and will be shared with you after today's session. If you have any questions after this presentation, please email marketing@alertus.com. Now I'd like to turn it over to Robbie.
Thank you, Vincent. Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining this morning or this afternoon. We will be discussing panic buttons, the panic button solution as it reduces response times for emergencies. Today, essentially, what we want to discuss is a little bit about Alertus Technologies, how you all send alerts, so something to think about while we go through the presentation. Challenges you might be facing. We'll talk about our solution as, one-step activation in regards to panic buttons. And then feel free, like Vincent said, to send us any questions, and we'll be able to assist you with those at a later time. Just a little bit about Alertus. We are the leader in this in facility-based notification. We were established in 2002 after a tragedy at University of Maryland College Park. Two sisters were unfortunately killed as a storm went through that campus. We are the leader of this industry, so we serve all different types of sectors with over 2,000 customers throughout the United States and the world. So just for you all to think about, you might have multiple platforms that you guys send alerts, and you have to send these alerts to multiple locations, maybe dead zones and things like that. These are just some of the challenges that we face and we see when we do these presentations. So the three main things that you want to think about in regards to your facilities are: how are you guys going to send alerts quickly? What challenges are you guys trying to fix and get emergencies quicker to? And how long it might take to activate different systems that you guys have throughout your facilities. Like I've mentioned, we want to make sure that we reach everyone, everywhere with a unified system. So we want to check all these boxes that you see on the screen here. We can hit multiple different platforms that you guys have as well. So we want to make sure that ultimately we take care of our three goals here. We want to make sure that we have a single point of activation on your campus. We want to make sure that we integrate with all the assets that you probably spend a ton of money on, as well as fill any gaps around your campus, either using our panic button solution or other devices that we have in regards to emergency notification. Just to kind of briefly talk about our panic buttons, this is ultimately going to be your easiest and simplest way to activate the system, right? We can touch all different types of devices like desktop notification, different mobile apps, VoIP phones, digital signage, your fire alarm panels, etc. So we want to make sure that this is the most simple and easiest way to send that notification. Just to begin, we're going to start by talking about full system activation. So as you can see, we have a couple different ways of doing that with our Alertus console, our fire alarm systems that we can integrate with, as well as our VoIP phones that we integrate with. But really what we want to talk about is our duress and activator app. Ultimately, our duress buttons are one of our major solutions that we offer here at Alertus. These are the easy one-step solution that's going to be able to activate your system within seconds. Ultimately, we can customize these as well, so you can have all different types of buttons. They are wall-mounted, and they are connected to our alert beacon, which essentially communicates with our server on your around your facilities. So there are various different ways of customizing these and having different scenarios already pre-populated. So when you hit that button, it sends out one one notification to all your different endpoints. So what I would like to do is show you guys an activation of our system with using this panic button. So as you can see, this is a great way to just get a notification out with one click of a button very quickly. So moving forward, we do want to discuss a little bit about our internal communication as well. We do have 3 different modes. We have our desktop activator, which is a great resource, as well as our Alertus recipient app. Ultimately, our desktop activator is great for internal communication. It's a great way to discreetly get a message across to your decision makers in case there is an emergency. So we do have a software panic button that you see on the left there. This is a great way to just send a press for help. You can have different presets and use Active Directory as well to know who's going to be sending that message. And then for those high foot traffic areas, maybe secretary's desk, places in the open or that have money around, this USB panic button is great for those scenarios. I like to describe it as a banker button, essentially. So just want to show you a quick video of this as well, just so you guys can get a good idea of how it works. Is even with these buttons, you can activate the entire system using these buttons. So they are very easy to use and can get that emergency notification out quickly. Now moving forward to our mobile app, we do have 2 different types of mobile apps. We have our recipient app and our activator app. Our recipient app is more for your faculty members, people within the business. Essentially, you can report an incident using this app as well as receive notifications of an emergency. We also do have the activator app. This is for the people that are going to be the decision makers in your facilities that are going to be sending out a mass notification to your faculty members and staff. Essentially, you can have that pre-canned message up in that text box. You can also edit that if needed. You can hit all your different devices throughout your facilities, and you can see those devices that you're going to hit. Once you press activate, there will be a "Are you sure?" button that pops up as well. That gives you the peace of mind that if you press activate by accident and it's the wrong message, you can go back and change that message. Ultimately, once you press that second activation screen, that will be able to activate the system entirely. So just in the grand scheme of things, you can have these panic buttons in different places around your campus or in your building. Ultimately, this is just our Alertus system in action. So you see some of our panic buttons around these different facilities using other solutions that are going to be great to notify people around your areas. I would like to turn it over to Matthew Malsey. He is the Emergency Response Technology Manager at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, and he will discuss how they use their one-button solution there at their college.
Sure. Thanks, Robbie. Okay. So our emergency notification system really grew up from it's about 10 years old at this point, and it really grew from a disparate grouping of applications that all required some amount of manual effort to activate. And so even though we had a predefined template for our emergency warning scenarios, it still required somebody to manually go in and do a lot of copying and pasting. And so we implemented Alertus to use the panic buttons as kind of the triggers to activate our system. And so we went from this kind of fabulously detailed hand drawing of stick figures to really automating all of the action. And so we kept, for the most part, we kept the same endpoints that were doing activations. So we're integrated in with a couple other tools. Instead of someone manually activating all of that, they reach over and they push one of the panic buttons. And so we have a button for each one of our 3 primary emergency scenarios: the armed and dangerous individual on campus, major fire hazmat spill, tornado warning affecting campus, and then our 2 other buttons being a full test of the system and then an all clear. And so because we come from IT and security always has to take some component into the project, we adopted the security through obscurity, or the security hiding in plain sight. It is a little bit concerning how well all of the can colors match the Alertus beacons, but I guess that goes to how customizable they are. This is thankfully not how our buttons look at a normal day-to-day basis, but when you involve third shift operations center, idle hands and free time and all of that. And so as far as how our system, our Alertus system looks on campus, our Alertus servers are virtual machines. They live in one in each one of our data centers. One is configured as a primary. The other one is configured as that warm failover. And we've got some scripts in place in the event that we lose contact with the primary. Things automatically roll over to the backup server, and it takes its place. They're fronted by an F5 load balancer. And so we use the hardware buttons to activate our emergency scenarios, and then follow up with using the web interface to push out additional incident-specific messages. And then we also have the mobile app activation in the event that the hardware buttons do fail. The mobile app, as Robbie showed, can activate our system in the exact same manner as the hardware button. Additional Alertus components that we have implemented: we do have the desktop alert notification. It is a manual opt-in process from the end user, as well as some of our individual schools that are pushing it out, and we are looking at making it part of our what we refer to as the CCI, the Carolina Computing Initiative default build, so that in the future it would come pre-installed on all of the laptops and desktops that are purchased through the university. We are just now in the early phases of rolling out some of the hardware alert beacons, and so we really only have about 5 or 6 of those scattered throughout campus. And so just to give kind of a graphic of summarizing our the value that we saw in implementing Alertus and really taking advantage of all of the automation that occurs from using the panic button as the activation of the system, we took what was more than 15 minutes from start to finish and really condensed it down to the amount of time it literally takes for somebody to press the button on the wall. So even though, again, all of our initial warning notification messages, all of that content was already predefined, predetermined, there was no back and forth about what should the message say, it still took quite a bit of manual effort on the operator activating the system to be able to get those messages out. And so by automating it all behind Alertus and having Alertus trip Rave, Xmatters, and some of our other various systems, that initial message goes out in literally seconds.
So now we have Kyle Vandekamp, Systems and Network Administrator at Trinity Episcopal School.
My name is Kyle Vandekamp. I'm the Systems and Network Administrator at Trinity Episcopal High School. So our school, we are a small private high school. We have about 500 students and about 100 faculty and staff. And we have a really open campus. We have 7 separate buildings that students roam between classes and whatnot, so we have difficulty with things like locking doors, and we can't necessarily lock everyone out. And we also have a lot of guests coming on campus. It's like college campus. People come walk their dogs through here and things like that. And we're also nestled in a large residential neighborhood, which gave us some sort of limitations on what equipment we could use to alert. They don't even allow us to have lights on our football field, so we can't have a massive PA system to notify the entire school, because the neighbors would be unhappy with that. So our original goals, we started with nothing. We did not have a good way to alert anybody. We would rely on a system of, hopefully you have everybody's phone number in your phone and things like that. And so the board came to us like, okay, we need to have a new solution for this. So we wanted to start with the basics. We looked into Alertus. We just wanted to be able to notify our whole school in the most simple way possible, which was through speakers at first. We also wanted to allow our community, our students, our staff to be able to activate a panic alarm in case of an intruder or an armed intruder. And so we started deploying beacons and panic buttons or duress buttons in every building. And we were given a budget by our board, and we were able to actually get in under half the budget initially with Alertus. So our configuration right now, we are at 8 Alertus beacons. We have about 7 buildings. Some of them have more than 1 beacon in there. We have 8 physical panic buttons, which we are currently looking to expand because each beacon can have 2 panic buttons that have custom sort of functions by default. And then you can even daisy chain beacons together, so you could have a lot of one button that is your panic button. We have about 20 interior and exterior speakers. This is what we opted for instead of doing one large PA to cover the entire campus. This allowed us to really pinpoint our fields and certain areas while trying to keep the residents around us happy, especially while we're doing drills and things like that. We also just deployed 3 different scenario-based alarm sounds. We decided that we didn't want every single alarm to start with the same sound. So we have one for all clear, one for general emergency, that would probably be tornado and things like that, and then one unique one that is only used for active threat, intruder sort of situations. And then we have 6 digital signage around campus, so that's 1 per every main building that can be overridden by Alertus. And then on top of that, we have about all 700 of our computers. We're a one-to-one school, so every student is provided a laptop. They all get triggered as well when there is certain emergencies, so it is easy to notify everybody. And then we have 100 software-based panic buttons. So as Robbie was discussing earlier, there is the desktop activator, which is what we deploy to all of our faculty and staff computers. So every single one of our faculty and staff can initiate an alarm, and they've been trained in basically what to recognize as being appropriate for an active threat alarm or things like that. What we'll also be doing with those panic buttons is adding in features for, we have scenarios where somebody needs medical help in a classroom, or somebody, there's a disciplinary issue and they need help. They can go in and choose that option, kind of fill out the panic form. And based on the information in the panic form, it gets routed to the appropriate staff members. So it could either be disciplinary or medical, and it would get routed to the appropriate staff members there. Lastly, what we really enjoyed recently is the really going into depth with the automatic activation for weather and natural disasters. So our continuing goals, one thing that we realized when we started rolling this out is how good we could get our emergency messages out. So we are still, though, continuing to slim down the amount of time that it takes from one person notifying whether there's a tornado or an active threat to how many people and how quickly they get that. And we are right now at about under 10 seconds for everybody's screen to be taken over. We have text SMS messages that go out to about 2,000 people per activation. That's mostly the students' parents. And we are trying to maximize panic button accessibility. So the thing that we like a lot is, in theory, we will be able to add as many panic buttons chained off the same, as long as it's the same panic scenario, we can daisy chain the panic buttons and spread them across the building at a lower cost. And so we're expanding and putting physical panic buttons at every single exit of our school with minimal cost. And then with the panic button, one of the features that we liked that we discovered through a recent drill is having a physical cutoff switch in a locked room for the alarm. We have one for our fire alarm, but having somewhere, say nobody was available to turn off the alarm, there'd be another panic button that can be set to end all activations that is in a secure room. Lastly, why we continue to use Alertus, I've really enjoyed all the the work I've actually been able to do setting up our system, but it is extraordinarily customizable. Just with the panic buttons alone and what actions you can take depending on what type of panic button you have, it can be really down to the nitty gritty of, you have USB panic buttons that are connected to the front office computers, but when the cleaning crew comes by and they accidentally hit it, if it's out of hours, you could say like, oh, within these hours, this is the only time the button works or something like that. Or you can really keep it as simple as you would like. Just a simple, oh, this button does this and that's all. Support has been amazing for me. Really quick to reach back out and provide help for questions I may have about custom event triggers and things like that. And they really seem like they're subject matter experts in the actual product. Integrations, I've been enjoying this one, getting basically automating, like Matthew was saying, automating when a button gets pressed, getting all these messages out to different people. So being able to integrate with our SMS services and RSS feeds and things like that has been really valuable. And lastly, the thing that has worked really well for us as a small private high school is the expandability. We started off slow. We put the amount of money that we had into it. And then over the past 4 or 5 years, actually, we have grown extensively from where we began, because you can just keep adding on what you want to, say every summer or whatever your budget allows.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to Robbie, Matthew, and Kyle. That was awesome. We're now beginning the Q&A session of our presentation. If you have a question, please submit them through the chat or question box. If we do not get to your question during this session, a representative will reach out to answer your question directly. A recording of this webinar will also be shared with you after today's presentation. So let's begin with our first question. Can a panic button be used to produce multiple messages?
Yes, multiple alerts can be activated at the same time for different target groups. So multiple actions can be triggered with just a single panic button push.
And our next question, is there a way to integrate the panic buttons with an access control system?
Yeah, so this is one of our growing solutions that we are working to integrate with. So right now our alert beacons are the gateway for the access control systems. They can send a contact closure trigger to during an alert to ACS for locking certain doors with any other functionality that the ACS can provide.
Our next question, can a panic button be used to deactivate a false alarm?
Yeah, absolutely. So we can activate alerts to be canceled with the panic buttons. You saw with Kyle and Matthew that they do have an all clear button as well. So that's a great feature to have within your facility.
All right, our next question, if our building has multiple panic buttons, is there a way to locate what panic button is sending the alert?
Yeah, so this is awesome as well. We can definitely do that. So with the panic button activations are identifiable, and the location information can be assigned to different panic buttons within the Alertus admin console. So custom alerts can be triggered depending on the panic button location, essentially.
All right, our next question, how are the panic buttons powered? Is there a power source internal or external?
So there is no power source that is needed for these hardwired panic buttons that you saw today. They are just powered through the alert beacon. So a lot of these different panic buttons are in the police stations or the higher education security offices, so it's easy to be accessible to those decision makers when they need to push those buttons.
It looks like that's all the time we have today for this webinar. We have now conducted the Q&A session. Again, if we did not get to your question, we will reach out to you directly with an answer. If you have any questions or need more information, please feel free to email marketing@alertus.com and we'll be happy to assist you. If you're looking for more information on Alertus or our solutions, please visit our website at alertus.com. If you're interested in seeing our upcoming webinars, please visit alertus.com/webinars to see the full schedule. Thank you for joining today's webinar, and we look forward to meeting you again soon.